Conoce, educa. Aprender para actuar. Entre profes. Somos Educa Te Escucha.
En los últimos años, un área que está ganando cada vez más atención es la importancia de la neurodiversidad. Comprender las diferentes formas en que funcionan los cerebros de los estudiantes y crear entornos inclusivos es esencial para fomentar un sistema educativo que acomode a todos. Hoy tenemos la suerte de contar con la presencia de la doctora Bárbara Oakley, profesora de ingeniería en la Universidad de Oakland y experta líder en la ciencia del aprendizaje. La investigación de la doctora Oakley ha proporcionado ideas valiosas sobre cómo podemos comprender y apoyar mejor a los estudiantes neurodivergentes en el aula. Su trabajo en ciencias cognitivas ha sido innovador y ha realizado contribuciones significativas a nuestra forma de entender el aprendizaje. Dr. Oakley, thank you for being here with us today. It's a real pleasure to have a chance to speak with you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so the first question is, what strategies can teachers implement to be more inclusive with neurodivergent students?
Oh gosh, there's a number of different strategies, but I think one of the most important is simply retrieval practice, which is actually one of the most important ideas in all of education. And what does that mean? It means pulling the information from your own mind. Asking students, for example, not only to remember, but to pull information from their own mind and kind of that will automatically start relating it to other things. So here's what I mean. We often start a class. We're a teacher, we come in, we say, okay, this is what we covered last time. And the students sit passively. Instead, we can come in and say, now, write down, what do you remember from what we covered last time? And then you are getting students to pull it from their own minds. But we must also remember that when it comes to learning, there are neurodiverse students. That means that some students take in the information and process it differently. So, for example, there are a number of students, perhaps 10%, who have dyslexia, and perhaps an even bigger percentage who have what is called subclinical dyslexia. That means some symptoms of dyslexia, but not enough to really get diagnosed. Mm-hmm. But even so, it is harder for these students to read because it's very hard for them to parse the words due to the dyslexia. But they can hear very well. And these tend to be what we call auditory learners. So psychologists will say, oh, there's no such thing as learning styles. They're not neuroscientists. And neuroscientists have actually not studied subclinical, well, they have studied it, but not in the context of learning so much. But there's profound and clear evidence that some students do learn better by hearing. And it's okay to allow these students to learn this way. Now, other students, they learn better by seeing the pattern and instantly understanding how to do things. For example, with mathematics, they may see an equation, see instantly how to solve it, and they can't explain how they can solve it. They just can solve it. Yet teachers will go, oh, if you can't explain it, you don't know it. Mm-hmm. But if they didn't know it, how can they solve it? It turns out that some forms of being on the autistic spectrum can allow you to instantly parse patterns, but not explain very well. And so what that really means is we should stop insisting that students don't understand unless they can explain, because that's simply not true. Of course, there's many other different things, but I'll be talking about some of that today.
Yes, yes, in one hand we have these different needs that some students have in class, but in the other hand we have a standard curriculum that we need to follow. And how can we balance these requirements and also maintaining the integrity of this standard curriculum?
Oh, it is important to maintain the standard curriculum, but how you get that knowledge within a student's head can vary. They will need to show that they can do it, right? So, for example, if solving a mathematical equation is part of the curriculum, that you need to be able to solve these types of problems, that should be part of the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
But asking students to explain step by step every method of how they got that solution, why does that matter for attaining the standards of the curriculum if they can actually do it? So I think it's you can be aware of different ways that neurodiverse students can achieve the goal of whatever that knowledge is that students are supposed to have. And you can help them get to that goal using their own techniques more efficiently.
Okay, and how can we raise awareness among educators about the importance of taking neurodiversity into account in schools?
Oh, I think, how can you help educators be aware? I think that many teachers are very much already aware of neurodiversity amongst their students, because they see these really different kinds of students all the time. But one helpful thing for teachers to know is you can't help it, but you always think, little Juan there, he is not paying attention to me because that's on purpose. He's always just going off and doing something else and not paying attention to what I'm teaching because he's a bad boy. And it's so easy to think that, because a lot of students, they can pay attention. And little Juan, he must have, he's a bad student. But actually, it is how his brain is designed makes it so he's very easily distracted. And if we understand a little bit more about how different brains can make even something as seemingly simple as paying attention a very difficult thing to do, that's a good thing to help teachers be more aware and more helpful for their neurodiverse students.
Yes, but teachers don't work in isolation. So what role do you think that parents and community have in this situation?
Oh gosh, always the parents are going to be in a really good situation to sort of best see if their child seems to be having problems that are, like if a student comes into your class, you may notice that they're behind in reading, but you haven't seen a number of years of patterns like the parents have seen.
Yes.
And so it can be very helpful, for parents to watch and to be aware. Like even for me, I'm an expert in learning, and I should have been aware that my younger daughter has ADHD. There were signs of it when she was growing up, and I just thought, well, she's not focusing and paying attention. And I didn't realize that my own daughter could be assisted by some in the medical community. So if even I can be, just have something slip by me like that, I think it's easy for everyone to have that happen. But if you're consistently seeing problems with attention, with reading, with numbers, it's a good idea to reach out, as a parent, as a teacher, if you have the time, to people who are have more expertise in this.
And in the case that the parents don't want to accept the diagnosis, what could teachers make? Which would be the second step for us like teachers?
Oh gosh, every situation is so very different. Many times, if there are experts at negotiation, right? They're very good at negotiating, and they can even get two warring groups to come to an agreement. There are also counselors that are experts at talking to parents and who might be able to help in this situation, because it can be very difficult for someone who has a neurotypical outlook on life. You just think, well, everyone's like me. And it's hard to understand when someone is not like you.
And finally, what advice would you give to future educators to face the challenges of the 21st century?
I would say ask ChatGPT about that. And that goes a little deeper. Learn everything you can about generative AI, like ChatGPT, like Claude, Gemini, and so forth. Go online. There are some great courses, including my own
Yes.
Accelerate Your Learning with ChatGPT. But if you learn a little bit about how to use this, it can help you enormously. For example, let's say you want your students to be more motivated and curious in your class. How can you start your class with something that gets them more curious and motivated? Take a picture of your notes, put it on ChatGPT, and ask for ideas. You'll get incredible ideas. If your students are bored, ask ChatGPT. My students are from Peru, and here's a little bit more about them. How can I motivate them in this class on Python programming? It will give you great ideas. So,
Okay, thank you so much for your time and sharing your knowledge with us.
it's my pleasure.
Y esto fue Edúcate Escucha. Si deseas seguir al tanto de nuestras próximas entrevistas, no dudes en suscribirte, activar la campanita de notificaciones y visitar nuestra cuenta de Instagram, donde encontrarás más contenido de Edúcate Escucha.